We're here in Colorado Springs today at People's Presents, and I'm doing a presentation on content marketing. And content marketing is really critical to what's called inbound marketing, which is really the way marketing is done today. Today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, which I think is central to marketing. It's the idea of marketing with your story, marketing with content, marketing through attracting people to you, as opposed to going out and knocking on doors and finding them. In fact, this graphic kind of sums up what we're going to talk about today. And this is what the internet has done to marketing. The internet has flipped marketing on its head. And I'm just old enough that I can remember the days of marketing without the internet, where you had to do prospecting and telemarketing and cold calls and all that. Remember, drum up business. Well, those days are pretty much gone now. And if they're not gone, it's a lot more difficult. And so what I want you to do is understand the strategies and the basics and the concepts of using this kind of technique to attract people to you in an unlimited marketplace. But it's a marketplace with a lot of choices, right? The overall purpose of this presentation is that you get more leads from your website and you get more qualified leads so that when they come to you, it's easier to make a sale, right? I also want to use this as a way to retain your customers who have a lot of other options. And when they think about other options, we want them to come back to your website and to stick with you. We also are going to talk about how content can improve your brand, because your brand is what people think about when they think of your company. And the content on your website reinforces that. So if you have sugary marketing content about how great you are on your website, that doesn't reinforce your brand. It just creates clutter in the mind of the user, right? We're also going to talk about how you can get more market share and beat your competition, and overall improve your sales and help your marketing team be better. Inbound marketing or content marketing is critical to success in marketing today. With the age of the internet, it's really what it's all about. If you can't attract people to you through your content, you're not going to grow your business. The days of knocking on doors and prospecting and trying to shake the trees to find customers, those days are really gone. Marketing and salespeople have to use and understand the power of content marketing to get results. In fact, I think that some of the best content marketing people are your best salespeople, your best marketing people. We just have to teach them how to make that transition to the web, to marketing online. And this is what I want you to learn today, is how to rise above the crowded market space. Now, most of your companies here are local. Some of you are also national. But you've got to rise above the local noise and the national noise. And you can use content to do that. We're going to talk about the concept of you becoming a publisher and a thought leader in your market space. And what does that mean for you? And how can you make that happen? There's lots of obstacles that come up when you try to do that. We'll talk about those too. And then what you're going to find out is if you do these things, you get more traffic to your website, you get more leads coming from your website, and like I said, your business will grow. Content marketing focuses you to do what? To understand benefits of your products and services. All right? None of us here sells generic products and services. Every one of us has very strict benefits behind what we're doing. And content marketing online is what you have to do to communicate that to the world. People want to research to find your company. They don't want to be sold to. So clients that come to you or find your company online are much more likely to be long-term, loyal, and profitable customers than those that you have to go and shake the bushes out to find. That's at the heart of inbound marketing. And rule number one is customers find you. So I know you've had meetings in your company where you get everyone around and say, we need more customers. We got to go find those customers. Let's go find them. And then the customers are thinking, don't bother me again. I've got enough emails, I got enough interactions. Let me find you when I'm ready. That's the biggest rule that we're going to talk about today. And here's the data from the leader in this industry of content marketing. And that leader is a website called Google.com, which everybody here probably used today multiple times. And Google.com reports that 80% of people looking for a consumer product will research on the web before they go to a website and make that decision. And even in B2B networks, it's as high as almost 60%. I think these numbers are probably higher. This data is a couple years old. So your goal, and another objective from today, is to get found in their research. So instead of having a meeting where you say, let's go find customers, let's go bang on some doors, what do you say? You have a meeting where you say, how can we get customers to find us? That's the new rules of sales and marketing. That's rule number one. And it has changed the selling funnel. And the selling funnel is the process or what goes through the mind of a person as they decide to make a buying decision. We all do this, right? Prospecting is replaced by leads, generation of leads. Now, lead generation has always been around, but it's never been more important because the internet has created an environment of self-service. In fact, our world is becoming self-service. We basically do everything online, or we do it in a way where we handle the transaction. And because of that, it has relied on the information we gather from websites to drive our decision-making process, as opposed to a salesperson. In fact, even today, there are websites where you can't find a phone number on the website, you can't talk to somebody, you got to figure it out on yourself and follow the process. So that's a mindset now in marketing, and that's what makes content marketing so important. So this is the new sales funnel, and your sales team has to be aware of this. Your sales manager has to be aware of this concept. And of course, there's benefits that come with doing this because you're better meeting needs of the online researcher. There's also challenges. And I'm not going to fool myself in thinking that you guys are going to be able to go back to your offices and just make these changes, right? No, there's barriers here. One of the biggest barriers is, you mean I have to start writing? I haven't done that since college or high school or whatever, right? You don't have to start writing, but someone on your team does. Yes, absolutely. Someone who's part of your organization has to start writing. If you're working with your sales team and you have a great salesperson or a great marketing person, and that person can't write, which you'll see, which will happen, ask them to come up with ideas for topics and then find a writer that can write for you. Simple solution, sounds like common sense. Probably 90% of people in this room don't do that. It could have one of the biggest changes that you'll see in your business, and I'll show you why that will happen. And these are some of the mistakes that are made. Say too little or too much, say nothing, which I think is probably the biggest mistake a lot of us make, is we just don't say enough. I also want to talk about the concept of the language you speak at your company. So all of us in our companies have a language we speak, right? Is that the language that your customer speaks? Probably not. And I see this almost every day when we work with business owners, and I ask them, tell me, what is a key word someone would use in Google to find your business? And they come up with a term. And I think to myself, that's the key term, right? Well, there's 10 searches a month on that term. Maybe it's this term, right? Maybe available homes is not called inventory. So you have to talk in the language of your consumers, and it's very important. And that one way to do that is to get these external writers involved, because if they're smart, they'll say to you, sounds like an internal language you're speaking. Let's speak in the language of your consumers. Okay, so that's rule number one. People are going to find you. So it's a mindset you have to bring back to your company for this to all work. If you can't have that mindset, it's hard to get these action items going. Rule number two, because of all the clutter, because of all the content, because of all the websites, because of Google, it's more important than ever to build a loyal following. But there's a flip side to that. We want to be loyal. Why do we want to be loyal? Why do we, when we buy an Apple product, we stick with Apple. When we buy a certain brand of car, we tend to stick with that brand. Why do we do that? Because there's so much noise out there. There's so many choices. It makes our lives easier to pick one brand and just stick with it. And smart marketing companies know that. So they're trying really hard to make you a loyal customer, and you should do that too. And content creates loyal customers because they read your content, and what happens? They relate to it. It's like them. Yes, I get this. That makes sense to me. I want to work with that company. So we have a very busy prospect, inundated with noise, inundated with clutter. They do a simple search in Google and get 1.5 million results. So we have to somehow present and connect to them, right? And we're part of a self-service world, which we talked about before. And also people believe on the web what they want to believe. And that's kind of caused a lot of divides in our country, hasn't it? Because you can go online and pretty much any philosophy that you believe in, you can get assurance that that philosophy is the right way online. For you as a marketing person, what can you learn from that? Your content, if done properly, that tells your story and explains your benefits, will connect with that like-minded person. And that like-minded person becomes a very strong lead for your sales team, and it's a win-win for them and for you. And word of mouth is definitely tied into this, isn't it? Absolutely. Referrals. And I want you to also understand what people do when they're looking at content. Because you have to understand this or you can't make them loyal. If they can't use your website, they can't become a loyal customer. The book talks about that quite a bit. But people move through websites very, very quickly, much quicker than you can ever imagine. And we see this in our web stats, all right? So if we have a website, and we've managed hundreds of websites, if we have a website that has a bounce rate that's better than 50%, that's a moderate success. If they're better than 40%, that's a pretty good success. That still means that over half, in some cases, of the users of your website leave immediately because they're bouncing around looking at information, right? This also builds trust and the concept that we can see through your website and your company just as if it's a transparent piece of glass, right? So if your content isn't true to your mission and your core and what you're about, people can see through that right away. Can't you? When you go to websites, can't you tell, oh, really? And then you just leave, right? So you want to be genuine and true to what your brand is. And also keep in mind market segmentation, which is more important for larger companies. Because as you get to be a larger business, you're going to have to draw in different types of market segments. Those market segments will need different approaches in blog posting, product information, and content. Now, stay in touch programs, the concept of an email monthly newsletter. You've got to do it. And here's what I hear in presentations. Well, I don't want to be a spammer. I don't want to just spam people. Well, if your content's spam, then don't do it. What should your content be? Valuable and important and relevant. And that relevant content will get shared. How easy is it to share an email? Right? So stay in touch programs are a huge part of this funnel we talked about earlier. More important than ever, because once somebody pulls the trigger to connect with you in any way, even if it's subscribe to a newsletter, inquire about business, make a referral, all those people should be communicated with monthly. It's also really inexpensive. And there's a few other bullet points too. There's lots of ways to stay in touch with people these days. And the answer to the question, which one should I do, is what? How do you answer that question? You do the one your customers want. And you may have to do more than one because your customers may prefer more than one. Not everybody watches video, not everyone listens to podcasts, but some people do. The one thing most people do is they will read content on a website, and they may print it out. Okay, so there's a great book out there called Why Things Catch On. You ever heard of this book or read it other than me? It's a great book. And have you ever wondered why things go viral? And in some of the YouTube videos and stuff, why? I mean, you know, million views or whatever. I'm not saying that your content's going to go viral, but I am saying that it will get read more and distributed more if it follows some of these guidelines from the book. And what I did basically is took the entire book, all his research, brought it down to his 6 major categories, so nice bullet points for you guys. This is what we do when something goes viral. It's either social currency, which is how does it make me look? How does it make me look that I bought that product or used that service, right? It's a trigger, which it means it's top of mind comparison. Oh yeah, they're like so-and-so. And because they're like so-and-so, that's why I went with them. It's emotion. It's public. Who else uses it? Testimonials, customer lists, stories, right? It's practical value. You can show and display practical value and ROI. And it's stories. The concept of telling stories of people that worked with you, what that experience was like. People that did banking with People's Bank. What was that experience like? So these are really, in a nutshell, the 6 things. So your content needs to somehow fit into those areas. And in fact, if you have a writer who's preparing content for you and you sit down and you read it, if it doesn't meet one of these areas, then it's not going to be nearly as effective. Rule number 3, when I hinted at this earlier, it's the power of simplicity. So because we're all inundated with all this information, you've got to keep all this simple. In fact, in the websites we design, we push our clients very hard to have minimal navigation menus, right? To really be smart about how they organize content. Because we know if you make life difficult for customers, what happens to your bounce rate? And bounce rate is someone coming to your website and leaving immediately. Let's look at some of the key rules of simplicity. One of the top things I found with simplicity is it takes courage. You don't need 15 options on our website. It's too much for people. Give them 15 options, and which one do they pick? Someone else's website. Right? And simplicity takes direction from the marketplace. So in Google Analytics, people vote on what they think is most important in your company. The bank's a great example of that. If you look at your data for the bank, you'll see what parts of the bank are more important to customers. And generally, that data matches the sales in the organization. And so if there's too much and there's too much clutter and too much, it's going to take away from your core value. So Google is one of the most valuable companies in the history of the universe. And look at how simple and easy their website is. Do you think there was anyone in a Google marketing meeting that said, wait a minute, we could put some stuff up there? Yep. So you're getting a million hits a second. Maybe we should have a car commercial up there, right? Oh man, the money they could generate. No, they dominated search in the late 90s because of the simplicity of the website and because of the relevance of the search. Now, anyone who works with Google will know that it's anything but a simple website. I mean, underneath just these 3 links or 4 links that they have up there, there are hundreds of thousands of pages. And then, of course, not only that, but Google puts my picture up there, so they know everything about me because I'm logged into my Gmail account. They know everything I'm searching for. They know what I'm writing in my emails. They can market to me for anything I'm doing. But this is their homepage. So they know the power of simplicity. And then be ready for your content to be found on mobile devices. About half of the people that find you will find you on their smartphones and mobile devices. So you have to be ready for that and prepare for it. Number 4, probably knew this was coming, and this is mobile. So we've been watching mobile trends at our company for several years now. They continue to increase. They have started to reach the 50% barrier, which means that more than half the people looking at websites are looking on mobile devices. If you'd asked me that 5 years ago, I'd have said that's crazy. No one's going to want to look at websites on tiny little devices on their hands, much less buy from them or submit content or read content or do an email. But you know what? It makes our life easier, so we do it. And younger generations don't know any different, so they've grown up with it. They're doing it all the time. So content and your approach has to be ready for mobile. And it's pretty straightforward to do this. It's going to continue to increase. You can see in your Google Analytics data very specific mobile device usage. They break it down by the actual device. The key is responsive design. And this is really the biggest thing. It's probably the biggest thing that's happened to web marketing in the last 6 months is responsive design. And in fact, Google just recently came out and said, responsive design now is part of our search results in mobile search, which is about half of search. You have to have a responsive design mobile website. Hopefully everybody here has one. If you don't have one, you need to get started on getting that going. This is what it looks like. So this is a client of ours, Preserve at Walden. You can see when you're on your computer, you're going to see the full big screen. But when you're on your iPhone or a smaller device, it will shrink down, and it'll actually shrink throughout the continuum of screen sizes. And Google, in their spiders, they know how to see if your site can do that or not. And if it can't do that, you won't rank as well. So we looked at those are the four rules of inbound marketing. Now I want to dig a little deeper and talk about content marketing. 10 rules of content marketing, which I call the oxygen of inbound marketing. Without the content, it goes nowhere. Rule number 1 is write for the reader. We hinted at that earlier. Write for the reader. It is the holy grail of marketing and sales. People that are successful in sales and marketing are that way because they understand their client base. It's a very simple formula. People that don't understand their client base struggle. They don't get it. They can't figure out why people don't buy and move forward, and they don't understand them. So that's number 1 behind content marketing. And I think that it's important to realize how they're going to take in your content, which we'll talk about in just a second. Number 2 is to use this content to be found in Google. And it's a pretty straightforward formula. There's no magic bullet. Social media is not a magic bullet. We're going to talk about social media in a second. But Google still is the dominant player. 70% of all searches go through Google. And growing. So the first page of Google now is branding for your business. If you're not first page for your selected search terms, you're not really considered a player in that search term. So if you're doing business in Colorado Springs, your business, you need to be on page 1 of Google, or you're not really a player. Now, the good thing about that, though, is that it's a fairly small town, and you can do it. You can get listed. We'll talk a little bit about how to do that. In fact, for you as a business leader, and if you're running a marketing team, the most important thing you can do is get started on a content generation strategy for Google. Now, I'm going to show you in a second how Google does its coding and its ranking and all that. But Google is such a mature search engine now that to break into really well-established keywords is very difficult. But you can get what's called long-tail terms, which means these are the terms that people use that aren't just the keyword, but a combination of keywords. That's what you're driving for. And in fact, here's data from Google that supports that. Google would like to see 500 to 1,000 web pages on your website. They will report that you'll get 48% more traffic with 50 more pages. You get 9 times more traffic with 1,000 pages, and you get 5 times more traffic if you have a blog that's regularly updated. Now, the question I hear, and this is what you're thinking, no way, how can I possibly do that? Okay, so I wrote a book that has 250 pages. On a website, that book would probably have 300 or 400 pages. And there was one day when I sat down and started typing that book. Just like you guys would, right? That's where you do it. You start with one day of typing and preparing content. And a year later, you look back and you go, my gosh, I'm at like 750 pages on my site of excellent content. I dominate search in Colorado Springs, or I dominate search for my business. That's how it works. And a lot of this really is around the blog. And the leading platform for website development right now is called WordPress. Everybody here heard of WordPress? WordPress started as a blogging software, became a CMS, became the market leader, and now Google and WordPress really like each other. So websites with blogs get listed in Google. Here's the other code, though, that you need to know about. And even though it is challenging, you want to make sure you cover these bases. And we use a tool called SEO Moz. There's a lot of them out there. We've researched them, but we like SEO Moz. It will help you through this process. And when we look at websites, I'll show you some Google, we'll see some Google results, and I'll show you how this code translates. Number one is the URL and the title tag. In fact, domain name authority is very, very important with Google. Now, we'll talk about that in just a second. But to get found in Google, you want to have solid website code. You want to have solid on-page website content, right, that relates to your keywords. You don't want market speak content. You want links from other websites pointing to your website. That's how Google started. That's how they got so popular, because they were like a popularity contest when they started. But links to your website is still real important for domain authority. Domain authority is the ranking that Google gives your domain name against other domain names. And SEO Moz goes from 0 to 100. And a lot of our client websites, they're in the 40s and 50s, and we're trying to get them up. But it's a challenge. If you guys get SEO Moz, you can do a free trial, and you can see where is your domain authority. One of the tricks to getting good domain authority is make sure you own your domain for a long period of time. As a business leader, and there's a chapter in the book on this, I think it's important you understand Google and the motives of Google. Not the day in and out of what Google does and how they do it, but the motives of Google. So one of the top motives of Google and motivators is to avoid spam. Because Google knows if spammers invade their search engine, what's going to happen. If we all decide tomorrow in this country we're not going to use Google anymore, what happens to Google? They're done. They don't have to worry about calling and saying, got to renew your credit card. No, it's business, it's done. And they know that, so they have to have good, relevant results. So one of the ways that Google has decided to avoid spammers is to look at how long you own your domain name. So if you're renewing your domain name every year, that's what spammers do. Don't do that. Get it for a 5-year block or a 10-year block. The other thing to do to avoid spam is to set up Webmaster Tools. You don't have to do this, but your web person needs to do this. Webmaster Tools is an app from Google, and Google is really an app company, a software applications company, and Webmaster Tools is one of their apps. You use it to talk to Google. So your website talks to Google, and you monitor all of the things that happen. And if you do that, you're not a spammer, because spammers aren't going to do that. They're just wanting to make a quick buck and get out. And then finally, mobile responsive design, which we talked about. Rule number 3, make consistent content the voice of your brand. So what you're doing to the world now, that audience of many, is you're bringing your content to them and your brand. What I want to encourage you to do is make sure somebody in the company, maybe you, is making sure that that content's consistent and stays with the brand message. Because once you get to a few hundred pages on your website, you don't want that content to start to steer away from what the brand is about. Rule number 4, and this is really important. All of you are in business because you do something well. You do something well. You should understand what that is. You should understand what it is that you do well. The key is translating it now to content. And most of you, if I went around the room and said, what does your company do really well? In about 5 or 10 seconds, you'd nail it. And you'd tell me what you do really well. But if we went to your website, chances are we would not see that on your website. We would just get an idea of what you do, right? And maybe that you've done it a while. No, we want to know what you do really well. You've got to translate that to the web. And that last bullet point, ads are not content. So what you do really well is not an ad. What you do really well is a benefit. Number 5, this content then will make a competitive advantage for you. And in fact, this content should be translating your competitive advantage on the web. What is it that you do better than others? How can you communicate that? And because of the issue of the bounce rate, and because of the issue of people scanning things really quickly, one of the most powerful ways to communicate benefits is photography and graphics with captions. Photos with captions. So when someone comes to your home page, they should see a photo with a caption that encapsulates what you do better and what you do differently, and why they should continue to look at your website and go deeper and look at more content. There's another bullet point here that I want to just address real quick. I've heard this as a concern. Well, geez, Tom, if I do this, I'm going to give away my secrets to the world, right? And then my competitors are going to take those secrets and they're going to get the customers. So what's wrong with that statement? Well, number one is that if you don't do that and give those secrets away, someone else will, right? If you go to a website and they want you to log in and give away information before you get content, most of us just find another website that has the content we need, right? So if you don't do it, someone else will. And more than likely, your competitors will not steal your content and information. They will try to outdo you and do it on their own. So I just wanted to dispel that myth. Make content a competitive advantage. Rule number 6, write great headlines and taglines. Because people scan on websites, they bounce around, they look at images, they look at photos, have great headlines and taglines. Not about how great you are, but about the service and benefit you provide. The benefits of your products, the benefits of your service. Number 7, communicate in layers. What does that mean? Communicate in layers. This is the concept that you grab people's attention with your home page. If you can get them for 10 seconds, you're doing great. But then they're going to want to go a little deeper. But they don't want to see an encyclopedia of content just yet, do they? No. So you communicate in layers. An introductory page, it might be the home page, it might be a landing page. Then a secondary page with more information, maybe more detailed photos. And then underneath that, you can have an encyclopedia of information. And people say, well, no one wants to read all that text on the web. Well, they don't have to. That's why you communicate in layers. You give them options. And search engines do like the encyclopedia of information. In fact, the most popular website on Google is what? An encyclopedia of information, Wikipedia, right? So, your website's not going to be Wikipedia, but it can have a lot of content. And yes, we do user testing at our company, and I've watched people fiddle around on websites for hundreds of hours, and some people will read that content. They will take the time, they'll read it, and they'll take it in. So, communicate in layers. Always use captions with photos and graphics. I hinted at this before. A photo without a caption is interpreted 10 different ways by 10 different people. And our most famous photo we use in Colorado Springs is what? Pikes Peak. Okay, so Pikes Peak is really cool. I mean, how many people have Pikes Peak on their website or have had it at some point? Yeah, okay. So Pikes Peak is great, but there should be some relevance to why you have Pikes Peak. Your business is located in Colorado Springs, so you have Pikes Peak. You do tours at Pikes Peak. Whatever you're selling has a view of Pikes Peak. In fact, we did work for Cordera, which is the development out here, and we did user testing for Cordera, and they had a picture of Pikes Peak on their website. And we brought users in, and we said, what does that picture mean to you? And people say, well, it's Pikes Peak. It's a big deal. I just ignore it and go on to something else. And I said, well, did that ever occur to you that might have been a view from Cordera? No, that's just Pikes Peak. I see it all the time. Then we put a caption that said actual view from Cordera, and we did user testing. What do you suppose people said when they saw that picture? That's the view from Cordera? I had no idea. I better make an appointment and go check it out. That's the power of captions. Number 9, watch the ROI on content marketing. So this should not all be pie in the sky stuff that we're talking about. And the nice thing about web marketing is you have Google Analytics. You can watch the ROI on all this. So if you hire a writer and you start funneling money into this, you need to see website traffic increasing, you need to see inquiries increasing, and overall business growth, right? So watch the ROI in what you're doing. The nice thing about content marketing, and I still run into clients all the time that do radio commercials and things like that. A radio commercial is here and gone in 30 seconds, right? But content marketing on your website is there forever. As long as you let Google index it, it's there forever. Number 10. So none of this will get done unless you create a culture in your company of doing this. In fact, unless you make a commitment to doing this, none of this will get done after you leave this room. But you can do that, and then you have to make your company have a culture, and you have to stick with it. It's kind of hard to do because you can't see immediate results. In the old days, you could call a customer and get a sale, and you feel like, all right, yes. Well, no, today, writing this content and doing this work will produce customers down the road. Implementation of this, we talked about blogs, and we're going to talk more about blogs. The About Us page is so important. In most of the websites we manage, the About Us page is in the top 10 of pages visited. And I've seen that over 10 years now. But most of us don't do much on our About Us page. We have a paragraph, maybe 2 paragraphs. This is a good place to start today, tomorrow. Go look at your About Us page. Does it really tell the company's story? In most cases, it doesn't. In most cases, it may not even have pictures of the key people on the team, right? So here are some bullet points about what to include in your About Us page. That right there could be several pages of content. And update on a regular basis. Another page that is part of content marketing is the Contact Us page, which also, in a lot of cases, there are websites that don't even have a Contact Us page. Contact Us pages are critical because it's your most important page view conversion. If someone goes to your Contact Us page, what are they looking to do? So the Contact Us page should be on the main navigation. It should be well thought out. And because we all prefer to contact people differently, you have to have multiple methods that are listed here. Okay, so the other thing I hear in these presentations, what are we going to write about? How can I get a list of things to write about? And where should I put these things? Well, obviously, you want to have great content about your service and products. That can be kind of stagnant after a while because you're not going to be updating that frequently, whereas your blog should be updated. Most of this content is going to go on your blog. And I've got a list of checkpoints here that you can look at to give you ideas. The key to having a successful blog is to start with categories. Your blog categories are the table of contents for the book that is your business. Does that make sense? Blog categories are the table of contents for the book that is your business. So if your website is your business plan to the world, your blog categories is a table of content. And then you start filling those in. 2 more slides I'm not going to review in detail, but these include the content types and formats because different users like to take in content differently, right? You have to know your marketplace and the way they like data. And then the different distribution channels because it's much more than just websites now. Understand and segment your audience. In fact, you could do this as a brief little content marketing plan. It'd be homework for you. Assign content duties. Who's going to start writing the content? Who's going to select the topics and so forth? Develop a schedule for content placement and stick to it. At our company, we have a book tip of the week that has to go out every week, right? So it's something we have to do. It should be the same for your company. You've got to have that blog post done every week. We manage websites for clients where they expect blog posts every month, once or twice a month. And so in our team meetings, we brainstorm and we do those blog posts, they get posted. Have the same thing in your business. And then, of course, track results and conversion rates. And I'm just going to end on this one. One of the most important things you can do is take these slides and have a marketing meeting and start talking about them. And as you're talking about these slides, have Google Analytics in front of you. And realize if you want to grow your business, increase your website visitors, right? And this is what this is key to do. Companies that get this right will be much more successful in the years to come. The companies that don't get this right will lag behind and in many cases not even know they're losing market share. I hope you've enjoyed this video presentation and I hope that you can learn from our 4-step process and from our approach to content marketing and inbound marketing. Much of what we've seen in the presentation today is found in my book, Winning the Website War. I hope you'll go to Amazon or go online to winningthewebsitewar.com and pick up a copy.